Assalamu alaikum and welcome to week 13 of the If I Were You show. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Fatimah. I am your host and the founder of Finance Girly, where I help Muslim women take control of your money to build a financial future that you're proud of. On this weekly show, I hop on, answer some questions, scenarios, and give my opinion on hot takes when it comes to money related issues. So it's just your homegirl sitting and chatting with you, telling you what she would do if she were in your shoes. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to address is when you have a budgeting issue, there's two ways to solve it. Number one is either you can increase your income or decrease your expenses. One of those has a ceiling and the other one doesn't. You can only decrease your income, your expenses up until a certain point. And beyond that, you're capped. And when you're increasing your income, on the other hand, there's no real limit to that. So when you're working on your budget, if you're having trouble, I don't have enough margin, I don't have enough room, I don't have anything left. If you've cut your expenses to a certain point, you also need to not miss the other side of the equation, which is to increase your income. You need to be doing both of those simultaneously. If you're in a season where you need to save more money or you need to find more room in your budget in order to reach a goal, whether that's saving, paying off debt, or investing, if that's the season that you're in, make sure you're focusing on those two simultaneously. Beyond that, if you're earning a high income, don't neglect the act of budgeting, the process of budgeting, because budgeting is a proactive plan for your money. It's not the difference between the person who has an idea of wanting to be fit and wanting to be healthy, and they just have it in their head, and they're hoping that they're going to reach somewhere in terms of their health. They're hoping they're going to feel healthy and be fit and all those kind of stuff, but they don't have a solid plan. That's the person who's just winging it with their money. Versus the person who wants to be healthy, wants to reach certain fitness goals, and they start by going to the doctor to get a baseline of what is going on with them, just their numbers, to get clarity on where they stand health-wise. And then they create a plan with their nutrition, with their sleep, with their fitness, like their exercise, and they create a plan based on that. That second person is the one who has a budget. Because when you're starting to create a budget, the first thing you should do is to pull your expenses, to take a look at what's been happening. And then you identify your goal. Lastly, you create the plan. Your plan is based on what you know from your past experiences, the things that you've gotten. That's the person going to the doctor for their baseline. And then the budget is the health plan that you have. So how many times I'm going to be working out, where I'm going to be working out, what kind of workouts I'm going to be doing, what I'm going to be eating. That is your budget. And if I was to ask you, of those two people, who's more likely to actually succeed in terms of reaching their health goals? Of course, you're going to say it's the second person. Because the first person is just winging it, hoping for the best, whereas the second person is just being so intentional and proactive with their health. So when you're creating a budget, even when if you have a high income, don't neglect budgeting, because that's the best way to optimize your financial picture and to reach your goals and to make sure that you're aligning with your values and you're spending your money in things that you actually value and it's aligned with your lifestyle and your beliefs. That's the first thing I'm going to address. So what actually happens when your money goes into a bank account? When you deposit money at the bank, what happens? Most banks in the US are FDIC insured, meaning when you put your money in there, the bank covers you. You have insurance, if you will, up until $250,000 per account. And when you deposit your money into the bank, banks make money off of money. Here's how that works. Let's say you deposit $1,000 into the bank. The bank is going to take some of that money and borrow it to someone else. Let's say you have $15,000 that you deposit into the bank. The bank takes $10,000, gives it to Sister Zainab, because Sister Zainab is going to buy a car. So she goes to the bank, she takes a loan for $10,000, and the bank is going to charge her. That's the bank's business. They're charging you for giving you money. That's riba. Sister Zainab took 10,000 to buy her car. She's going to pay back the bank over time, perhaps $12,000. So that's where the bank is making their money. That 2,000 is where they're getting that profit. So that's just something to keep in mind. And that's why if you have a savings account with the bank and they have interest, they would give you, if they earn like 2,000 as profit, they would give you a percentage of that 2,000 and keep the rest for themselves. Next, let's see. Oh, this is a good one. What happens to your money, your retirement account money, if you leave your job? So that's a good question. The answer is it depends, because different companies have different rules when it comes to your retirement accounts. For some of them, for example, they would say that if you leave your job within the first 5 years or the first 8 years, then you're not going to receive the amount that they have given you as a match. So some companies, they match your contribution. So if you invest 3% of your income, they're also going to match you 3% of your income, for example. And with some companies, they would say the vestment period is 5 years, meaning if you leave the job within the first 5 years of your employment, then the 3% that they have been contributing towards your retirement accounts, their contributions are going to be kept. So you don't go with that money. They're going to take it back, even though they had previously invested it into your account. So that's something to think about. However, they might allow that's your money. You would keep your own contributions towards your plan. Now, when you leave a job, I've seen a lot of people make this mistake. When you leave a job, make sure that you roll over your accounts. You roll over your retirement accounts. The better idea would probably be to open an IRA account. So a Roth IRA. Roth means it's post-tax, so you've already paid taxes on it. And IRA means an individual retirement account. So how that works is you go to like Fidelity or Charles Schwab, and you open a Roth IRA, and you roll over your you go to your employer, whichever company that they're working with, and set it up so that you can roll over your funds from them into the new Roth account. If your previous account was not Roth, meaning your contributions, you had not taken taxes out of them, then you're going to pay taxes. Keep an eye on that for your next tax, whenever tax returns come around. When it's tax season, you need to pay the taxes on that. Ma'am, what happens when you don't roll over? I had a retirement account with Ben. I didn't roll over. It just stays there. For some of them, it just stays there, and it's in that place. So yeah, they'll keep it in there in most cases. But you want to roll it over so it's, one, you have less accounts all over the place, and two, it's in one place and you have control over where it's being invested. Okay, this one's talking about credit freezes. So a credit freeze is when you put a freeze on your credit. And what this does is that it makes it harder for someone to open new lines of credit using your information. So people would often do this for identity theft protection, or if they know that they don't want to open any new accounts at all and they want to prevent themselves from opening an account in the spur of the moment. That kind of stuff is what a credit freeze is helpful for. And the way to do that is there are three main credit bureaus. There's Experian, there's TransUnion, and Equifax. So you go to each of those and you put a freeze on your credit. It's even when you have a freeze on your credit, it's good to like take a look at it once a year at the very least, just checking on where your credit stands, or just pulling up your credit report to see what's going on there. But it makes it difficult for someone to open new accounts because they cannot pull your credit report when you have a credit freeze. So that's something to keep in mind. kind of tired today, I'm not going to lie, so I'll probably end with one more. To build wealth. Saving is there as a cushion, and investing is there to actually build wealth. It's a lot harder to save your way to $1 million than it is to invest your way to $1 million. So once you have your emergency fund knocked down, then you put that money and hopefully some more into your investments and start working on investing. If you have a need to save within that time, let's say you're going to buy a new car, you're going to go on vacation, there's a wedding coming up, those different things that you need to save for, you're about to move, then create a sinking fund. And a sinking fund is basically a savings with a different purpose. That's not an emergency. So you'd create an account, and just like you were doing with your emergency fund, you put money towards that account every single month. But there's a goal. There's something that you're working towards, and sometimes it's fun to label that account as the goal that you have in mind so that you're enticed and excited to save towards that. But I don't believe in saving for the sake of saving. I am a bigger proponent of investing, an advocate for investing, than I am for saving. But savings are important and they have their role. It's okay for your savings to not be invested. The goal of your savings is not to maximize returns and make you a ton of money and to make you rich. The goal of a savings, here I specifically mean an emergency fund, is to keep you safe. It's to keep your solid financial situation, to keep your financial situation solid when things happen that you do not expect, because the truth is they're going to happen. So don't feel horrible when your savings is not making you money. It's okay if you're investing. And hopefully at some point in the near future, inshallah, I'm going to be sharing some Sharia compliant savings accounts so that your money is not just completely losing value to inflation. Because even if that's the case, that is better than having it in a high yield savings account. Because then, as we mentioned earlier, you're making money from interest, from riba. That's where you're making your money. But I'll be sharing, hopefully in the upcoming weeks. I'm still doing a lot of research, kind of wrapping up the information that I'm gathering in order to share some options that are out there that are inshallah Sharia compliant. So you're building wealth while still sticking true to your values. So that is it for today's session. Thank you again for tuning in. Next week is an exciting one because I have two sisters that are going to come up and they're going to be talking about their experiences as college students. They went to college, amazing degrees, crushed it with school, and they didn't take out loans. They graduated debt-free. I should say they graduated debt-free. So we're going to talk about how to do that. It's possible, and you got this. Trust me. You don't want to miss out. If you've just graduated or you've just gotten into college and you're going to be a freshman in the fall, you do not want to miss out on that episode. These are amazing, incredible sisters, and they have lots of wisdom to share. So until then, I will catch you next week. Take care.